Wonderful viewer. I'm so very thankful to God that you have taken this time to tune to our channel where we are discussing several contemporary issues of life. In our program, we called I Have a Concern. We have marital issues, we have relational issues, we have issues that has to do with religion. We also will want to talk about things that has to do with our day-to-day life. Health issues and other challenges are always discussed in our program. In today's discussion, I will be having a very wonderful friend of mine that is going to have this discussion with me, and he will be answering some vital questions that I believe affects the society. I want to use this time to welcome my beloved friend, my dear brother in Christ, Brother Nwankwo Chibuna. You are most welcome to this program. Now, we are going to talk about a case of judgment, because we believe that God judges people. Man also is given the right to judge. In the scriptures that we have read, we know that God said, let your judgment be righteous. But oftentimes we hear people say, don't judge. But God said, judge, but let your judgment be righteous. And we know that your righteous judgment can only come from the scriptures. So we see a lot of cases where judgment has been bypassed and justice has been denied or thwarted. As believers in God, dear brother Nwankwo, what will you say is the difference between God's judgments and the earthly judgments that we see today?
Okay, so once again, thank you for having me, Minister. The difference between earthly judgment and God's judgment, basically for me, just as the name implies, one is a judgment that is given by man, and the other is a judgment that is passed by God. So following that pattern, it is almost very clear to say that earthly judgment is a judgment that is human based in terms of perspective. The man passing whatever judgment it is that the person is passing has a perspective of being a human being. So it is that judgment is coming from his own perspective, while God's judgment comes from the fact that he is just.
Yes.
And the fact that he has a holy nature. So people can easily question any judgment that is passed by man.
Yes.
Because there are tendencies of being very unfair in your judgment as a human being. There are also tendencies of having some sort of bias and some sort of sentiments attached to that judgment. But when you go the other way and you're talking about God's judgments, you know that God in his nature is righteous. He is just and
He's
fair.
just and fair.
He's just and fair. So he's likely not going to, there is no tendency, there is no opportunity of anyone saying that there is some sort of bias in God's judgment. God's judgment is final. So that is one of the difference that rightly comes to mind each time this topic comes up. Another thing that I could say is a difference is the fact that human or earthly judgment is prone to mistakes and errors, because as human beings we are prone to mistakes. We are prone to make mistakes, and
That's, we are not infallible.
yes,
Okay.
as human beings, so we are not infallible, like you just said. We are prone to mistakes. While on the other hand, if you go the other way, God's judgment is perfect because He is wise, just and fair, like we've also said before. He is all-knowing. So there are no tendencies of having a situation where you say that God has made mistake in this judgment. It is not possible. So He is all-knowing God and all of that. So human can fail because he is prone to make mistake, while God's judgment is always perfect.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate that answer that you have given, because man is just, God is just, man is fallible.
Yes.
And so God's judgment cannot be the same like that of man. I want to appreciate you for this. My dear viewer, please, In this, you are to make your own comments to look at what has been said, God's judgment and man's judgment, what is happening in our contemporary societies. So the second question I would like to throw to you is, there are people who do things that are inconsistent with God's standard,
Yeah.
and they are not afraid of the judicial system that we are in. To that extent, can God not be consulted as we consult our judges? Of course, from what we have seen, the highest bidder gets the justice. Now, we see that our